Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome to the Battle for Azeroth Alpha testing and the last Warlock up for the first pass, the Destruction Warlock. A little over 3 hours of spellbook diving, talent, workarounds, and figuring things out, figuring out bugs and what works and what doesn't work. And the Destruction Warlock, if I had to put a tier list on the three of them, I would say Demonology would be my first, then Destruction, and then Affliction. Mostly because Affliction probably still has some stuff coming. Possibly, hopefully, maybe. We don't know yet. But as, of course, the beginning of these videos, I will be updating a few things about just the class in general, because I can't expect that every single person has watched all 3 videos before. You may only play Destruction Warlock. And, of course, if you want to see the entire VOD, the VODs are all recorded and then uploaded to YouTube as well. They are labeled as the Alpha testing broadcast, Alpha testing live stream with the Twitch VOD tag. You can check those out. Otherwise, you're watching this video right here, which is, of course, the Bay talks about sort of breakdown of all the testing and learning we have done over the previous live stream, but that is all there for you. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe right here, or go check out the Twitch live stream where all of the magic happens, I suppose, where it's all worked out between myself and chat. And all the little voices that happen to come from the chat room, we figure out how everything works and put together talent combinations and things. So when I start going over some basic stuff here at the beginning, realize that if it's highlighted in the spellbook, of course, that means the talent that I have put on, I haven't put on my bars yet, except, of course, I have to bring this up every single Warlock video. Demonic Circle has its freaking 2 buttons back. So you can drop your Demonic Circle, then teleport it to it with the actual Demonic Circle teleport. Because why the heck it was 1 button in Legion? Your guess is as good as mine. But that is back. But other things, let me bring over my notes here real quick. So, some bits and pieces for overall Warlocks is that Dark Pact, the talent, now pulls your HP for a shield, not your pets. Soul Conduit was nerfed or lowered in the current alpha build to be 15% chance. Soul Leech passive was tuned down, and the Absorb Shield is weaker baseline unless you take the Demon Skin talent. The Grimoire talent tier for all 3 Warlock specs has been changed, most notably to Destruction, which we'll get into more a little later. The Shadow Fury spell, your stun, is baseline for all Warlocks. It has a 1-minute cooldown with a 3-second stun in an 8-yard radius, and all 3 Warlock specs have that, and there's a talent that goes with it called Dark Fury, which reduces the cooldown slightly if you need more stunning. That is quite possible if you need to take that. And the range is slightly increased, cooldown was doubled, and again, I already went over the Demonic Circle having both of its freaking buttons back. That's just for Warlock stuff. In particular for Destruction here, you have a baseline cooldown. Praise the forces that be, because Affliction didn't, for whatever reason. I don't know why Affliction is no baseline cooldown. Maybe it's coming in the future. But you have Summon Infernal. It has been, in the past, a AoE/DPS tool for all Warlocks, right? You had Doomguard and Infernal, and they were linked cooldown, and you picked which one you wanted to use. Now Infernal is the main cooldown for Destruction, where it costs a soul shard, 3-minute cooldown, same thing. It lands, does some damage, and stuns around the area. That's the same. But now what the Infernal does is auto attacks and pulses damage around it. The AoE pulses, of course, scale with your haste, so the more haste you have, the faster it does that. And it generates a soul shard fragment every 0.5 seconds. Now, yes, they're purple, and we could call them purple embers for the course of the fact that Destruction used embers up until Legion, like whenever it all changed. And there wasn't supposed to be a glyph that was supposed to make them look like embers again, just visually. 10 soul shard fragments is 1 soul shard, which, as in my testing, and if you watch the VOD, and we'll see here a little bit, that the actual default UI to show that amount incrementally is not great. It works like Ember, it's just the same, but your Infernal is a AoE stun and AoE damage, and your main single target cooldown, not probably because of its own damage, but because of the soul shard generation. It will give you 6 full soul shards over the course of 30 seconds, right? A fragment every 0.5 seconds for 30 gives you 60 fragments, which is 6 actual shards. So it feels really good in certain situations when you have lots of Emulates out, or you've got Havoc on things and you're generating more shards that way, which again we'll see a little bit. So that is your base cooldown. No Doomguard, that is gone. And what's also baseline, as you see here, is Backdraft, which was a talent in Legion, and I'll read out what it does in Legion right now, where casting Conflagrate or Conflag reduces the cast time of your next 2 Incinerates or Chaos Bolts by 30%. If you're playing a Destruction Warlock and have been for a very long time, you know this has been a passive or a talent or in some way, shape, or form built into Conflag for a very long time in different forms. Now you've lost the talent, but you have Backdraft baseline. The baseline is just 1 next Incinerate or 1 next Chaos Bolt, same 30% hasting, and it will stack twice base, which again, we'll see how that changes with talents in the future, but that is now part of the core rotation of the class, which I found really useful comparatively to every Warlock that always took Backdraft forever, right? YouTube comments. So we'll see how that works. And we'll see how that goes in the future. Your mastery is the same. It's still the flat spell damage and then the random knocking back and forth chance spell damage, and the same thing for damage incoming and the extra little damage reduction in the, like, it's like a teeter-totter that goes back and forth randomly, and wherever the ball lands, that's the amount of damage reduction or extra spell damage you do, which they fixed because originally it was all just 0% or whatever, but you have like a split version of it now. There are new spell effects and particles for Rain of Fire, Incinerate, Chaos Bolt, Conflag, Immolate, and Shadowbird, and maybe others that we missed. The Purple Ember generation remains the same for Immolate, Incinerate, and Conflag, unless you take Fire and Brimstone. We'll see that downstairs. The Havoc cooldown was lowered to 25 seconds from 45. So it basically has the talent Wreak Havoc rolled baseline as well. As you see, there's no Wreak Havoc talent in your bottom row here. So Havoc is just 25 seconds and lasts for 10 baseline, core rotational part of both generating shards, spreading Immolates, and of course doing the incredibly beautiful double Chaos Bolts, which we'll see soon. It's really fun. And lots of reshuffling in your entire tree. The reverse Entropy talent and the Shadowburn talent are both either completely new or reworked. Hellfire is back, as you may or may not see right here. We'll look at that more in a moment. The new Grimoire of Supremacy and the new Roaring Blaze talent, which Roaring Blaze right now is a 15, which does the whole Conflag increasing your Immolate damage in the window, but then when you recast it, or it falls off, it all goes, whatever, the ridiculous thing. Just to show you, we're not going to really test much of it, but Roaring Blaze is now down here in the 90 talent tier, and you'll see why it's against Sacrifice and Supremacy soon. It's literally just Blast Furnace from Fire Mages from their current Fire Melon artifact, where Fire Blast has a dot. Roaring Blaze just gives Conflag a dot. It pandemics, does not stack though. So that's that. Otherwise, this is the core of the class. You see here, these are all your core rotational abilities and what you have baseline, except of course Demonic Circle, because I had that to show that off. Additionally, as I walk out here in the new Horde capital, I went over this in the Affliction video. More to a point with Destruction and Affliction than Demonology is that if you look at your specialization window, it says your Imp deals more or increased damage to targets affected by Immolate. That is gone. If you are a Warlock, rejoice, because now your pet decision, again, mostly outside of Demonology, if you're Affliction and Destruction, your pet now is based on utility. Their damage is nearly identical, but the Imp has the Blood Pact and its other 2 abilities. The Void Walker has the tankiness, the Fell Hunter has the Interrupt and the Purge, and then, of course, the Succubus has the Mez and the Slow, like Seduction and Lash of, or Whiplash, sorry. This is incredibly important for later on, and I'll show that off when we get downstairs. The testing we have done for Destruction so far yielded the least amount of bugs or things that weren't working, compared to the nonsense happening with different formulaic problems with Demonology or Affliction having some dots that weren't properly working or reacting to talents right. So again, alpha. The one thing we're seeing here too, and as it will evolve in the alpha as we go forward, I'm going to put the succubus over here in the corner for now, because she's going to keep slapping herself, and it's going to be weird. Unless you're into that kind of thing. No kink shaming. But the layouts of destruction and everything that we wrote down, I didn't really find a whole lot of things that were broken. The only thing that I found was weird things, like this new talent, Soul Fire, not to be confused with the Demonology Warlock's Molten Core adage of Soul Fire. Soul Space Fire is here for destruction and may or may not stick, whereas Soul Fire is an integral part of the Builder-Spender rotation of how Demonology now works in Battle for Azeroth, especially now in the alpha, and we'll see how that transitions into the beta. So, Soul Fire is here, but I don't know why. Because, and as I have to keep using these damn tomes, it is mathematically a stronger version of Chaos Bolt with a long cooldown and a long cast time. Nothing increases or nothing lowers the cast time except haste effects. And it has the same damage scaling that Chaos Bolt has. If I read Chaos Bolt right now, the damage is further increased by our critical strike chance, right? And that's still here. So Soulfire is a 1 soul shard, stronger 45-second cooldown version of Chaos Bolt. And there is some wiggle room you can do to use this thing, but it's the only real sticking point about the entire spec that I'm just like, eh. That's really what we came down to on the stream today, where I don't know where it fits. I don't know. You can maybe help me out in the comments down below and you can help me figure this out. I don't know where it fits. Because your 15 tier on live right now, you have Backdraft, which again is baseline, Roaring Blaze, which has been moved down to there, and we already talked about it a little bit there. It's just a dot. And Shadowburn. And Shadowburn's been moved. And if you've been following the other Warlock videos, the 15 and 30 talent tiers now are so integral, I feel, to how specs are going to play, that they really shape and mold the combinations of what a spec will do in that tier, at least for the pure DPS aspect of Warlock so far. So you have Eradication still. It's been moved up a tier. It's 10% damage in the Eradication window following a Chaos Bolt for 7 seconds. And Flash Over could be a temporary name. What's a Flash Over? I'm a photographer, I've never heard it before, so if anyone knows what a Flash Over is, please let me know. This gives you back the full Backdraft combo, whereas baseline Backdraft is the next one, Incinerate or Chaos Bolt. But Flash Over gives you 2 charges, and if you take Flash Over, stupid tomes, this area isn't a rest area. If you take Flash Over, you will get 2 stacks, up to 4 stacks, and I might as well show off the new Chaos Bolt because you're all waiting. Oh. Wait for it. It's really pretty. But yeah, I'll cast some spells for a little bit while I discuss. The Flash Over gives you back your full Backdraft combo, if that's what you're into, if that's what you need for the situation. Personally, what I have here right now, the Flash Over Reverse Entropy, and you see Fire and Brimstone down there. I wanted to bring this up first because Fire and Brimstone has been changed again. Reverse Entropy has also been changed. Reverse Entropy on live is Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire restore 35% of your maximum mana and deal 10% increased damage. That doesn't exist. That's gone. Reverse Entropy now is just your spells have a chance to give you 15% haste for 8 seconds. That's it. Passively. It procs a lot, actually. It probably has an RPPM system, I imagine, but it's right there. It has a huge uptime. I would probably guess like 40 to 50% uptime. And all that really enables you to do, of course, is to cast spells faster. Because not only do you get the 30% from the additional Conflagrate stacks for Backdraft for Chaos Bolts and Incinerates, If you proc reverse entropy, then you get even more cast speed. The mana regen madness that was there is gone because life tap for all warlocks is gone. No life tapping at all. Warlocks will care about mana for some type of utility-oriented stuff, but overall, mana doesn't move. And Fire and Brimstone has been changed to bring back a little bit of what you lost in Legion. Yep, I know you're gonna slap exactly. Go over there. Incinerate now hits all enemy targets, all enemies near your target. Near means 8 yards most of the time, for 40% damage. So not full damage, but 40% damage, but generates 1 soul shard fragment for each additional enemy hit. So that means I'm gonna cast a Incinerate right here on this target dummy. You're going to gain the benefit of 3 fragments from hitting 3 additional targets. And, of course, you're going to gain the, if I can read my spellbook, 2 soul shard fragments for a cast and 1 additional on the crit. The one thing it's hard to tell with the default UI, going back to how I opened the video, is the default purple embers are kind of hard to tell about, like, when you gain stuff. You know, with weak auras and things on live, I'm sure you know well more how many embers or how many purple soul shards fragments you are building. But the additional crit 40% cleave part of Fire and Brimstone, we don't know if those crits will give 2, if they'll give only 1, because again, I have to log dive and look at resource management to the timestamps and figure that out, or have a weak aura that would work, but again, there's no UI elements, there's no add-ons, there's no scripts you can run on the alpha right now, it's all locked down. But the new Fire and Brimstone and the way that like Rain of Fire works, this has been pretty interesting to test out. So I'm going to put out some immolates here, because this was a talking point we had on the stream today about how the new Fire and Brimstone feels and how Rain of Fire works in with that as well. I'm not running Soul Conduit right now for this, and it even gets crazier with Soul Conduit. But A, the new Fire is beautiful, and B, the overall fire motif, and yes, okay, I hear the YouTube comments. It was all on my stream today. You can't get green fire on the alpha right now, so calm down. Obviously, this would look amazing if it was green fire more than it would with red, but it really, this is... But so that's how the Fire and Brimstone works, which I was told that was lost from how Fire and Brimstone used to work, because now it just hits every target, but there's no extra soul shard generation, so you don't get more Rain of Fires for getting more Incinerates off. And again, we're coupling with this with Flashover and Reverse Entropy for even more cast speed to cast faster Incinerates, to generate more shards, to generate more Rain of Fire, to do more spammed AoE madness like you're seeing right here. Refreshing your immolates in there, I'm not sure if that will be a thing. I don't know, I'm not a warlock, but that's what your new fire particles and the new Rain of Fire, everything looks like. And again, here's the Chaos Bolt for you. Wait. Looks really good. There are some spell animations that are still not updated, but of course alpha, and they'll be getting to that soon enough. But that's sort of where I thought that Flashover, Reverse Entropy, and Fire and Brimstone work. But that's a very specific, like a 60 tier and an 80, a 90 and a 100 sort of enable and couple with what you pick baseline. And you have Eradication. The Eradication window is obviously still very much there. You have Internal Combustion now down here, which Chaos Bolt will consume up to 5 seconds of Immolate's damage over time effect on the target the Chaos Bolt hits, instantly dealing that much damage. And yes, before you ask, this definitely does Havoc. So the extra damage number you're seeing there, I'll bring this up for you. That is the Immolate ticking and the internal combustions, which numbers are small, so relative balance isn't there. But the Chaos Bolt itself crit for 7,500, and this crit internal combustion was 3,600. The combination of the Eradication window and internal combustion, they all feed into each other, is really neat. The Eradication window sort of makes me think a little bit about the UA window that the Affliction Warlock has, slightly, because you're not going to be always putting another Eradication in behind this one, right? You're not going to just cast back to forth depending on how many soul shards you have. But if you have a one target and you got your Infernal going, who gives you a lot more soul shards, and just this window of time opens where I would imagine you would juggle in the 10% window. You wouldn't spam into it, but you would definitely try, let's do this into this. You get like your 2 off right there, and then you would maybe float in the window, because you want to stay in this Eradication window for all of your damage, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't hit Conflag because I'm bad, and if it goes to fall off, yeah. So again, I'm not going to try to show off like, you know, super high-end gameplay here, because all I've done is tested this for so many hours back in Legion and now, and that's going to fall off, yeah. So there's this juggle you have to know when you have to cast, because Chaos Bolt's a slow cast, right? So if I go 40 yards away here, depending on how far away you are, the Eradication window is even more difficult to juggle because of that travel time. But this combination of the extra burst window on top of feeding into Eradication, on top of feeding into how Chaos Bolt works in the first place, is neat. I like this. But also, my 2 casters that I play are Elemental Shaman and Fire Mage. So having those moments of like big hits and then kind of filler is just how I play. And the last thing in the 30 row is probably one of the most changed, awkward talents you've had for a very long time, which is Shadowburn. And same exact tooltip picture. This is the new animation for it, though. So it has a little shadow flame damage right there that emanates from it. Same sound effect. But Shadowburn on live is 1 charge, 12-second recharge, Shadow Flame damage instant. That will give you 5 fragments and an additional 5 if the target dies within 5 seconds. Now you have a 12-second recharge, 2 charges, 3 fragments on cast, and if the target dies within 5 seconds, it will refresh the cooldown of Shadowburn. So it's a generator and damage. The one thing that's weird about it, and what chat brought up, is that Shadowburn is possibly a PvP talent in the PvE tree. But as you see, there's no PvP trees right now on the alpha. But it's an additional builder, and the way I've always heard about Shadowburn is that it's always way too good and mandatory, or complete garbage and never taken. So we'll have to see if this other change makes it more than just a talent you take to expedite your leveling process, with Shadowburning a mob as it dies to gain soul shards, to have Shadowburn, to Shadowburn to the next mob with a conflag, to Chaos Bolt it, to kill it within a Shadowburn window, to get the cooldown, like, see that rotation, right? That continuous just loop of Shadowburn to generate soul fragments. It's okay looking. Again, I'm not a pro Warlock. I don't know if Shadowburn, again, will just fall into obscurity, into the window of time that is just for questing or world questing, but there are talents designed for that, so be it. I'm not sure. It's this one, it has uses. It definitely feels more useful than Soulfire, which right now seems just kind of like a 45-second cooldown Chaos Bolt you just hit on cooldown. So be it. Again, Dark Pact is your HP. But real quick, I wanted to show you something with Dark Pact that I found out in the last Warlock video that I wanted to bring up. In Legion, when you use Grimoire of Sacrifice, which is a 30-second cooldown that sacrifices your demon to gain a chance of doing extra shadow damage to the target. There's no AoE splash anymore, just the target. It does work with AoE spells, except Channel Doomfire. That could be a bug, though. I'm kind of going off a tangent here. Grimoire of Sacrifice on live, you lose your pet's abilities. You lose all of it. And why I have the Voidwalker out here is because when you sacrifice your Voidwalker, you keep Shadow Bulwark, which is a 30% HP last stand on a 2-minute cooldown. And as I said before, Dark Pact pulls from your HP. And there was a lot of talk, mostly from the Affliction community, about how a lot of Warlock's survivability would be lost when they lost their artifact weapons. But now you can pull Shadow Bulwark to give you more HP, and then immediately go into a huge Dark Pact, which is 75% of my current HP, which is huge. This is a 1-minute cooldown, and Shadow Bulwark's a 2-minute cooldown. So in the thought of having the more HP and a huge absorb shield here and there, the change to Dark Pact and the change to Grimoire of Sacrifice is a huge versatility bump in how your utility can work to keep you alive, because you still have Drain Life, and Drain Life now is purely a heal. It's very much a heal. The Chaotic Energy's mastery for destruction does not apply to Drain Life, which could be a bug or not. But Drain Life for all 3 Warlocks is just a heal. And I didn't really show this off in a previous Warlock video, but let me go not die to the tanking dummy. I tried it on stream today, and he crit the crap out of me, and I was dead. But a Drain Life cast now, based on 110 values, of course, which we're not max level here. I'm at 35% health. 1 Drain Life channel is a really significant heal if and when you need it, which is what it's supposed to be for now. It's a huge heal. And again, this huge absorb shield into the heal. I don't think that Warlock's survivability will suffer very much, but you have to sort of combine Sacrifice, which still gives you a DPS bonus, a small one, to live. If of course, living makes more sense than dying. You do no DPS while dead. So if there are fights that require such a thing, I gotta run away from the damn target dummy. If there are fights that require this sort of amount of range, that this much survivability be a thing, I think you may see some use for Dark Pact and this Grimoire of Sacrifice combo, but that also goes through that if you use the Succubus, you will get her Human Mez, the Incapacitate for humanoids. The Fell Hunter gives you the Interrupt, and the Imp gives you the Self-Cleanse. You get all of that. You get it back with Grimoire of Sacrifice and a slight DPS passive in the form of the Demonic Power proc that it does okay damage to Demonic Power. It just sort of exists. It's a dot that happens. There's no animation for it right now, which I think is kind of strange. There could be one in the future, but it does give you some benefit with some damage, which is obviously a thing you have to worry about when you're a damage dealer, but it gives you a huge benefit to utility and survivability with this coupling. But that's Dark Pact. Burning Rush is the same. Demon Skin, again, if you take Demon Skin, it increases your Soul Leech window of HP you can have as the Soul Leech shield to 15% from 10%, and gives you the flat tick rate of getting more of it over time. Mortal Coil is the same, and again, we said Dark Fury is that cooldown reduction on Shadow Fury. Cataclysm is the exact same. Still is just the eruption of damage. There's been no change to what it looks like. It's just this. And it's the Immolate spread. So good damage, spreads your Immolates. Could be useful depending on what kind of AoE you need to do, or what kind of cleave you're maybe doing that maybe Fire and Brimstone won't be your answer and Cataclysm would. So we'll see how that works out. Cataclysm also has synergies really well with reverse entropy, because as you get this haste buff and you have all the Immolates ticking on multiple targets, they will then tick faster, right? They'll do more damage. So the new talent, not really new, but has returned, is Hellfire. And this one was weird when we were testing, mostly because it is not working as it should, I think. It should work like a Fury of Air, or a Breath of Syndragosa, or a Bone Storm, where not only does it pull health from the Warlock, it deals the same amount of damage outward as it does inward, it ticks faster with your haste, and it costs 4 fragments per second. It's also still the old look. It doesn't have the new particle effect, which I'm sure will happen. But as you saw right there, and I'll play it again for you in a moment, It's bugged right now in the alpha, where it has an actual channel duration from the old version. You can keep recasting it, that's fine. But it should just have like an on-off toggle. Because when it goes to your last soul fragment, or your last soul shard right now, it just breaks completely and stops working. It also costs 4 fragments on cast, and then eats up 10 fragments at your last soul shard. And there are ways you can make this last a very, very long time. I'll show you that in a moment when I get my 3 base fragments back, my shards back, rather. It replaces Rain of Fire completely. It does more damage mathematically. Like, per channel time, it destroys Rain of Fire. Unless you're getting lucky and you're clipping almost casting Rain of Fire with that build I showed you earlier. But you have to get into melee range, or somewhat close to melee range, which doesn't always work. Of course, you can move while channeling it, which is fine. But you can't stop it from casting, because when you hit R, or you hit your Hellfire button, it just recasts. I'm not in combat right now, so I'm keep getting like the passive regeneration. But you have to make a macro to stop casting it, or you have to just let it burn all your shards down. It should just be a toggle on and on switch, Fury of Aerith, Cindy, something like that, that it pulls HP from you in shards, and if it can keep doing that, it keeps casting, unless you turn it off. I hope that happens, because right now it's weird. But let me do this real quick. Let me first heal myself. There is a combination here that you can use. Dark Pact obviously works because you can shield yourself and never take any damage from it. But what we were looking at during the testing today is a little bit of this. So Demon's Skin passively ticks to give you Soul Leech. Soul Conduit works on a chance, apparently, every time a Soul Fragment is also spent. In this case, the 4 fragments that Hellfire pulls. And it doesn't look like it's not intentional, because it really doesn't give you a whole lot of additional power. So if you are AoEing and you set up all your AoE, right, and you get your Immolates out and you drop your Infernal and you throw out your Conflags to get your last bit of, embers, then you go in. Again, you have to recast it to keep going. But you see the shard generation A with your Infernal out, and B with Soul Conduit ticking. And we're still going. There it goes. Again, it's bugged in the last fragment. But I almost Hellfired for the entire 30-second duration of your Infernal, and you probably could if it wasn't bugged. So the incessant, relentless possible AoE damage that Hellfire alone can do would be great if it was worked to be more of a toggle than this weird channel spam madness. But that's a thing. People were talking about how because Affliction was gutted so much, what other Warlock spec is going to be the AoE spec? And whereas they both have AoE, and Demonologies looks very cooldown oriented, very window of time, Destruction definitely has AoE, either through the Fire and Brimstone Reverse Entropy flash over kind of that build, or just Hellfire. But again, Hellfire's drawbacks: hurt yourself. You can't do anything else while channeling Hellfire. You have to be able to be close enough to be able to utilize it, so there's a risk-reward payoff there, that if the numbers aren't there, Warlocks just won't use it. They'll just use Cataclysm or Fire and Brimstone. So we'll have to wait and see how Hellfire plays out. But hopefully it gets the new particle effects, because the new Fire looks really good compared to that. The new fire effects are really pretty in comparison to that, but that's fine. It only got re-added in a recent build, so we'll see how that pans out in the future. So whatever Sacrifice and its DPS plus utility combo, and Soul Conduit again is just whenever you spend Soul Shards or apparently Soul Fragments, that has a 15% chance to be refunded. The hard part about also looking at with Hellfire is that does it only have a chance when a full shard is depleted, or whenever it uses 10, or every time it uses 4? But again, that's something that you can't really test right now really well. We go over Roaring Blaze, and Roaring Blaze does work really well, and it feels good with like a Havoc window, Eradication, maybe Internal Combustion, Fire and Brimstone, I don't know. Because you Havoc, and you get your Immolates up, and then you get your Chaos Bolts, And the extra damage in that window, of course, stacks on top of each other because the, well, I didn't actually have my immolates up because I'm bad. You have immolates rolling on 2 targets. Your Roaring Blaze will happen because you want to cast your faster Chaos Bolts and, of course, the Generator. And you get the internal combustion that gets amplified by the Eradication window, and Roaring Blaze gets amplified for that. So there's a really good possibility that could be a good build. But that's where I think Roaring Blaze fits in. Grimoire of Supremacy, totally reworked. While you have your Infernal active, every soul shard you spend will increase the damage of your Chaos Bolt by 5%. This works with Havoc. So if you fire off 2 Chaos Bolts, you'll get 10%, and then 10%, 20%, and then 30%. Only during, of course, that 30-second window. Now, that puts a lot more power into amplifying the burst window with your 3-minute cooldown. Now, outside of Channel of Demon Fire, which is the exact same thing you guys are used to on live, look at Dark Soul. Dark Soul is your new cooldown in the 100 tier. 2-minute cooldown where it infuses your soul with unstable power, increasing your critical strike chance by 30% for 20 seconds. And as every Destruction Warlock just went, that's just 30% more Chaos Bolt damage. Because it's a ratio of 1 to 1. Every percentage of critical strike you have just increases the baseline damage of Chaos Bolt by that much. So if you have Eradication window, and you have the Grimoire of Supremacy cooldown, which Dark Soul and Infernal desync, because Infernal is 0, 3, 6, 9, because 3-minute cooldown, right? So 0 on the pole, 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes. Dark Soul is 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you have sync moments there where you have on the pole, and then nothing, and then nothing, and then again at 6 minutes, you have moments where they sync up. Some cooldowns do that on purpose because they'd be too powerful if they were always able to be synced up. But Dark Soul, we were trying to figure out the best way to utilize this, especially in a 2-target situation. Again, we'll take internal combustion here, we'll take Eradication, and it doesn't matter what you have here, really. Fire and Brimstone doesn't really do anything. It's also possible that reverse entropy is better here to get the haste procs to get more into the Eradication windows, but for simplicity, we'll just take combustion here, where you summon your Infernal, and you have to, we probably want to hard cast your 2 immolates here, because your Infernal lasts for 30 seconds, right? So you want to get your Havoc up, and then you Dark Soul, and then you let it happen. You get your first, a hard casting into this, so I get 2 faster ones right after. Have to refresh probably this. Yeah, see, I already messed it up. It's too fast. I'm not used to the timing. But you saw we got 6 stacks, so we have 8 stacks now. 10. We had a double cast before there, so damn. I didn't do that as well as I was expecting to do. Because with combustion with this, that's why I suggested reverse entropy. Combustion will pull down your immolates faster, right? Because it takes 5 seconds off of it when you get your cast off in there. Which is good for burst, right? But I think for sustainable damage within like the Supremacy Dark Soul window, if you're doing this, then I wonder if entropy might be better. Shadow Burn also might work because you just throw off the immediate hits to get more soul fragments, but meh, that looks kind of weak. So that's a possibility with that. And there was also a conversation we brought up with how a build would look if you just used Soulfire on single target in the Grimoire of Supremacy window. Because when you open with this build, you have 5 shards, or you build up to 5 shards, and your 1 shard can be Soulfire. So if you were doing something like this, and you just hopefully got a proc of Incinerate there. No, we did not. You can Dark Soul into... Oh, Dark Soul's not up yet. Wait a moment. You can Dark Soul into your first Soulfire and then Chaos Bolt spam. In a way, you're not like Chaos Bolt spamming, but I wonder if that's also a possibility and why Soulfire might exist as that 1 soul shard window, because it enables a rotation and or an opener, even though 45 seconds desyncs with Dark Soul as well. You have to delay for a moment. But again, you don't have any benefit here. So you could Soulfire. It does take up a lot of time. But it also hits really hard. And again, now you have this window of time where you're running in your Chaos Bolts in the Dark Soul window. And I almost had enough for one more. Yeah. That gets off, right? Yeah. But then again, that build you just saw, it'd probably be better if I had Flashover, because I would have liked to have 2 stacks of Backdraft for those 2 Chaos Bolts, besides having to go back and forth, with possible wasting of Soul Shard fragments. So, little windows of time that Dark Soul could be good, but again, going back to Soul Fire, it just doesn't seem like it fits yet. But we'll have to see. That is the Destruction Warlock. The combination of Grimoire of Supremacy and the interplay with Dark Soul, either Eradication, Internal Combustion, Reverse Entropy, something along those lines could really be neat. But there are definitely build options formulating here, baseline, because obviously all of your Scepter of Sargeras is gone, right? There's no nether portals anymore. There's none of like the crazy interactions that you had with Conflag and Immolate and Conflag, and like the chances to give you the Chaos Bolt, extra Chaos Bolt stuff or whatever. That's all gone, right? It's not even a thing anymore. But the core of the spec is still very much build Soul Shard fragments, Embers, and use them on Chaos Bolts. And how you utilize them, and of course with the reduced cooldown on Havoc baseline, that I'm not sure. You did just see there that if you do Havoc and you Conflagrate, you do gain the extra fragments, right? You'll gain double the fragments because you're hitting 2 targets. But that's it. I'm not sure what you guys think. I think, again, it falls into my second place for the overall reworks that are happening. Reworks that are happening to the Warlock. Demonology definitely has the most going on for it, but this, not so much. I really like the opportunity that Sacrifice might bring to the Warlock. I even just like the simplicity of like Roaring Blaze, Flashover, and Internal Combustion, or whatever. There's a lot of little things here. Again, the Fire and Brimstone spam looks really pretty. Just because of how much fire you can have out there and about, if that's what you're going on about. And yes, of course, these new particle effects when the green fire comes in, how is that going to look? How is that going to look indeed? Get in there. We're going to get some more Rain of Fires going. Come on, Rain of Fires. You'd almost want to always even Havoc a target, even when you're doing Fire and Brimstone, because you'll still get the extra hard cast, which seems crazy. But that's really a thing you can do. But that's double Rain of Fire right there as well. But a lot of fun. I think the simplicity change, granted, if you're doing the AoE build with Grimoire of Supremacy, that'd be bad because you're wasting Chaos Bolt damage. Don't do that. I'll just had it still talented. Let me know what you think. Thank you all very much for watching. If you're new to these videos, check out the other Warlock videos. They'll be linked here in the end, or the VOD will be linked down below. Of course, you can find it in the playlist on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Check out other ways to support the channel if you'd like. If you like the podcast that I do, we just did the Warlock catch-up for Legion recently. You can find that here on the channel. You can find the BTS podcast for it on my Patreon page. Additionally, you can go check out the live stream and give that a follow as well if you want to be a part of any of the other upcoming alpha tests and the second passes with the Azerite gear as that all unfolds in the future. And however, that will change the specs, or they'll just be relic bonuses. They'll be really boring. We'll see how that affects everything. Thank you all very much for watching. Again, my name has been Bay, and I will see you all in the next Battle for Azeroth alpha testing video. Nailed it.